The recording has begun.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our regular town council meeting on June 23rd, 2026. I would like to officially call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. Madam Town Clerk, would you please do a roll call?
Councilman Gutenberg,
Here.
Councilman McCormick,
Here.
Councilman Sampson,
Here.
Councilman Johnson,
Here.
Mayor James.
Here.
Madam Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. If you all would please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Council, if you've had a moment to review tonight's agenda, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
All right, thank you, Councilman Gutenberg. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is the disclosure of the closed session on June 23rd. In accordance with the Maryland Open Meetings Act, Annotated Code of Maryland, General Provisions, Article Chapter 3-211, we are required to include specific information in the minutes when a public body meets in closed session. To ensure full compliance, we will attach the written statement that includes the reason for closing the meeting, the statutory authority permitting the closed session, a listing of topics discussed, the individuals present, and the action taken. This documentation has been will be made part of the public record to maintain transparency and meet the legal requirements of the Act. Next on our agenda is the public hearing for the Adequate Public Facility Ordinance roads. Madam Clerk?
Town of La Plata public hearings are conducted in the following manner. Call to order, review of public notices, summary of town staff report and recommendation, questions by the town council to town staff, written documents entered into the record, speakers from the public, additional questions by the town council, and the closing of the public hearing. Written documents for the record submitted in advance of the public hearing are provided to the presiding officer prior to the opening of the public hearing. At the appropriate time, the presiding officer will call registered speakers to the podium. Speakers who have registered to speak in advance via the town webpage will be recognized prior to speakers who register upon arrival at the public hearing. At the discretion of the presiding officer, speakers' comments may be limited to 3 minutes and may not be yielded to another person. A sign-in sheet was provided at the entry of council chambers for any public hearing attendees to register to speak if they have not already done so in advance via the town webpage. Registration to speak will end when the public hearing is opened.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for joining us. I would like to officially open this public hearing on the proposed Adequate Public Facilities Ordinance for Road ZTA 02-2026 at 6:03 p.m. Madam Clerk, has the notice of public hearing been properly advertised?
Yes, Madam Mayor. For the record, this public hearing was advertised in the Southern Maryland News issue published on May 29, 2026 and June 5, 2026. A copy of the certificate of publication and the advertisement itself is attached to the meeting agenda. Notice of this public hearing was also advertised on the town webpage.
Thank you very much. Will the staff please provide recommendations regarding the proposed Adequate Public Facility Ordinance for roads?
I sure will. Good evening, Council. I'm Chuck Stevens, your Town Manager. I'm joined this evening by our Director of Planning, Mr. Don Dooley, and of course, Michelle Miner, as always, is by my side. So this is the culmination of 4 distinct components that the town has been seeking to responsibly manage and control development and growth in the town. So as council will remember, you've already taken action on water, sewer, and school seats. And we said at that time that roads was going to follow soon thereafter. So that's what we're here to talk about tonight, is a zoning text amendment specifically addressing for the purpose of creating, managing, and maintaining adequate public road facilities within the town. Do you want to say anything, Don, or I'll just go straight into the staff report? Just keep rolling? Okay, here we go. So by way of background, the La Plata Town Council aims to ensure that new development does not strain public infrastructure, focusing on standards for roads, water, sewage, and school capacity. In April 2026, the Planning Commission recommended approval of zoning text amendment 01-2026, which created adequate public facility ordinance regulations for water, sewer, and school seating capacity. The council subsequently adopted the APFO provisions in ZTA 01-2026 for codification into the town's municipal code. However, APFO regulations for roads were delayed for inclusion into the municipal code pending the development of technical standards. Working with a professional traffic consultant from Brutus and Associates, staff developed draft APFO provisions for the Planning Commission's consideration under Zoning Text Amendment 02-2026 on May 5th, 2026. The draft provisions are proposed to be incorporated in Article 10 of Chapter 191 of the town's municipal code alongside the previously adopted APFO regulations for water and sewer. The Commission expressed support for the draft ordinance provisions subject to minor adjustments. These modifications include a provision to require an annual update to the town's official street map of the town of La Plata and to facilitate interjurisdictional government coordination with the county and SHA when traffic mitigation measures for development in La Plata identify the need to mitigate project impacts to existing roadways outside of the town's jurisdictional control. On June 2nd, 2026, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on ZTA 02-2026. During the meeting, there were no public speakers. However, staff did receive public comments on ZTA 02-2026 that are included with your staff report in your packet this evening. In general, the tenor of the written comments support the purpose of the APFO for roads while also providing feedback for consideration to ensure the proposed APFO regulations are appropriate and effective. Both staff and the town's traffic consultant, which was BAI Inc., believe that the proposed draft ordinance, in combination with the development of a traffic impact study implementation manual codified in Section 191.96B5, standards, criteria for adequate public studies, will ensure to address future road capacity matters in conjunction with proposed development. After consideration of the entire public record, the Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the draft APFO text under ZTA 02-2026 to the Town Council. Zoning text 26 is now a public hearing for consideration and adoption. As of this writing, no new public comments received concerning TA 02-2026. In staff's opinion, the proposed text provides the appropriate regulatory balance to ensure that reasonable development continues to occur without burdening the town's road infrastructure to support it. The proposed amendments, this is your fiscal impact, fiscal impact. The proposed amendments have no direct fiscal impact on the town's operating budget. The changes affect development review processes and do not require additional staffing, equipment, or operational expenditures. Zoning Text Amendment 02-2026 supports the town's long-term fiscal sustainability by ensuring that town growth is matched by infrastructure capacity, reducing the risk of costs associated with overextended public road facilities. The strategic plan alignment, as well as your sustainability and ADA considerations, are in your packet. Your recommended action for council this evening is to adopt via ordinance the proposed amendments under Zoning Text Amendment ZTA 02-2026 for Article 10, Chapter 191, Zoning of the La Plata Zoning Code as recommended by the Planning Commission. And with that, Don and I are available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stevens. I will open the floor up for any council that would like to ask questions.
Yes, yeah, maybe some brief comments, Madam Mayor. I continue to be just so proud of the work that has been done to get us to this stage by staff and in leading us through this with the Planning Commission and the engagement that was done in the community across the spectrum, I think has just been so valuable. The conversations and the public record that we have built with months of open public meetings and the very significant body of dialogue that was produced around how we got to this product that we're going to vote on tonight. And I think it is really good. And I think that the key takeaways for me are that why this was so complicated is because this out of all of the things that we've produced so far has the most amount of intergovernmental interaction in order to get the outcomes that we know we want for our road infrastructure in La Plata. And what we have the most direct control over is town roads. But we have to do better at our engagement with the county and with state on how we prioritize, communicate our priorities, negotiate competing priorities with those entities, and be heard at the table when those negotiations happen. And I think, one of the things I learned as we went along this journey is that other jurisdictions that have done APFOs say the ordinance isn't the only tool. There's really other policy and execution elements that have to be paired with it. And that's why I'm saying that here for my peers here. And I think that, in the near future, I intend to submit an agenda item so we can have a conversation about engaging with the potential to become adjunct members with the Washington Council of Governments, the COG, and in particular with doing that. Today, we rely on the county to understand our priorities and represent us there. If we were to pursue becoming an adjunct member ourselves, we could have a seat at the table at the Transportation Planning Board for the metropolitan regional area. And that gives access to not only state money, it gives access to federal grants, it gives access to large buying pools and contract vehicles that we don't have access to today. And so I look forward to having those discussions as we continue to work towards the outcomes that this is just a piece of. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman McCormick?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Stevens, Director Dooley, everybody on that commission that worked forward with this incredibly quick turnaround, right? So I know we decoupled this on purpose because of the complexity. We were hesitant to lock in a date. I'm glad to see that you once again have over-delivered. So thank you very much to the staff for this. I have two very basic questions before the public gives their comments, because these are the questions that I've received. And I know it's in the document, but I think it's important to put it on the record. So the first question kind of touches on that intergovernmental relationship that we're talking about here. So let's say a county road and a city road, right? A La Plata owned road, a town owned road, meet at an intersection. We now have this APFO adopted and enacted as an ordinance and a code change. Is it simply a conversation with the county to make sure that our needs are being met? I know that there was a comment made during the discussion of this that we were purposely going to try to mirror it as closely as possible to make sure those conversations are easy to conduct. But I guess just brass tacks, we have a county road and we have a town-owned road that cross an intersection, and there's some sort of development that's going in there. Who makes the final say? How does that look?
Ultimately, the town can only control what it can control within its own jurisdiction, its own roads. The actual details will be laid out within the implementation manual that's codified as part of this ordinance. So the specific details I'm not prepared to go into tonight because I don't know ultimately what they will be, but fundamentally the intent is to develop closer working relationship with the county and with the state, with SHA, so that we blend their processes and procedures that are in place now as a way of developing a closer working relationship and developing consistency across the board in terms of how we engage with those agencies for mitigations that are outside of our control, but still, as Councilman Gutenberg said, having a seat at the table so that we're working collectively as a interjurisdictional government.
Yeah, thank you for that explanation. It's important to take out of that, in my opinion, just speaking for myself, is that I think this document gives the town, right, the ability to have teeth in a process that maybe we didn't have before. We definitely did not have before. So again, thank you for that explanation. I think that's very important for our residents to understand there. My second and third question are kind of tied into one. And again, I know it's laid out in the document, but important to get on the record here. So we're talking through different types of essentially gradings for different roads, right? Traffic pattern, and then you can get an A through, F grade. It looks like this document here requires a minimum of a C grade. However, when you go through the document and you read through it, to me, and I may be mistaken, which is why I'm asking you, it seems like it's a subjective grading criteria. So my two questions are, number one, who actually gives that grade? Is it the developer that's trying to put in the new development where the road is impacted? Is it the town doing it? Are we getting a third party to look at it? And then how are they actually going through that grading itself? Like, again, it looks like it's very passable, somewhat passable, not passable. So who's making that grade? And then how are they actually going through that process?
So I'll answer part of it, and then I'll refer to Mr. Carr, who's our traffic consultant, to piggyback onto my comments, and he can correct them as necessary. But fundamentally, the town is establishing its level of service, its LOS. And so for town roads, we're identifying our town roads as being, it has to be at a level service C. That's sort of the baseline. The county has already adopted their own level of service that we're also utilizing, and so is SHA. So we're respecting those levels of service, which are different for the county, state, and for La Plata. And so we base our traffic studies on what the baseline level should be, but also looking at what the existing traffic demand or traffic counts are today. And the idea is that you don't want to make the conditions worse than existing conditions, plus the additional traffic that's generated from it. If that should occur, then there are additional worsening of the conditions based on the traffic study, the traffic impact study. Then mitigation measures would be recommended to reset those conditions so that traffic improvements, whether they're for the roads, for signalization, or some other form of mitigation, helps to readjust it back up to the level of service that we're looking for community roads. And Mr. Carr, maybe you want to add to that?
No, this was perfectly summarized, actually, Mr. Dooley. I think, we just want to make sure that the developer is not subjected to an unfair ask. Like if the existing intersection is level of service D or E, we're not asking them to improve it to C. So if, like, what I mean to say that if it is existing condition is already worse than C, they're going to be only responsible for what their contribution to the level of service. So if it is D and they're making it a worse D, it is at that point we may make a call that, hey, we need to mitigate. Or if it is making further worse, like an E or F, then they will be responsible for that. But if it is already an E or F and they're only adding 5 seconds of delay, we can review that and make a subjective call on that.
Okay, thank you for the explanation to the process. Maybe I didn't ask it clearly enough.
Counselor, can I want to directly answer,
Please,
respond to one of your questions. Okay, and that was, the answer I'm sure is no. I'll ask Don to elaborate on it. But do the developers get to grade their own homework?
Thank you.
No.
No.
Okay, we are going to require them to do a traffic impact analysis study. The town will have oversight on that. There will be a negotiation on the front end of that to determine, and actually a lot of that's going to be codified in our
Yes.
in advance, so
Implementation.
it's no surprises to developers. But very, very clearly, I want to respond. No, the developers do not get to do their own study and grade their own homework. They will do that, and that will be subject to review by the town and our own
Great.
either town engineer or a third-party consultant.
Right now, we actually have, we're involved in developing a contract and signing a contract to enable the town to have contracting traffic engineers on call.
Okay.
So we will always have, for our traffic impact studies, a professional to guide the scope of work, to review, peer review the work that's been done, make sure the recommendations are logical and consistent, and that the mitigation measures support the town's ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that clears the intent that I personally had when I talked about this almost a year ago. So thank you for the explanation. Those are all my questions.
Thank you very much. Councilman Johnson.
Yeah, no, thank you again. I know the record has been extensive for the last 13 months, particularly the last 7 months regarding the adequate public facilities ordinance. And I'm glad tonight we are putting the last pages into the ordinance itself. So well done again to staff and particularly the planning commission who really digested what the recommendations should be for council. So thank you.
All right. Madam Clerk, have you received any additional written statements to be included in the record?
Madam Mayor, no additional statements have been received.
All right, we will now proceed to public comment. Is there a list of anyone who signed up for tonight?
Madam Mayor, no one signed up for the public hearing portion of public comment.
Okay, thank you very much. So this is the last opportunity for council. Any further questions for Mr. Stevens or Mr. Dooley?
No.
All right, thank you. Staff, do you have anything further to add before we conclude this public hearing?
No, thank you.
Okay. Council, at this junction, we need to make a decision whether to hold the record open or to close this public hearing. So I'm looking for what your will is.
Madam Mayor, I would make a motion that we close the public hearing.
I don't think we need a motion yet.
I'm sorry.
Just getting.
You just want consensus?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we know where.
Don't take away my.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, so you're in favor of closing?
Agreed.
That is correct.
Okay, closing. All right, thank you. This concludes the public hearing on the proposed adequate public facilities ordinance for road ZTA 02-2026, and the town council will hear no further comments or questions regarding this issue. So now I'm looking for a consensus from the town council to proceed to legislation with the APFO for roads that we will see later on.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
All right, we have a consensus, so we will see this later on, and I officially close this meeting at this public hearing at 6:21 p.m. Thank you very much. All right, that moves us on to our next item on the agenda, and that is a consent agenda. Council, if you've had an opportunity to look at that, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Thank you very much. Councilman Gutenberg, do I have a second?
Second.
Hey, it was you. It was, okay, Councilman Sampson, thank you very much. Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Then it brings us to the part of our meeting that is public comment. If you would like to speak, we ask that you state your name, whether you live within the incorporated town limit, and if you could limit your, thank you, if you could limit your comments to 3 minutes, that would be greatly appreciated. First on the list is Maggie.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure. Good evening, Maggie Larrick, an absolutely livid resident of La Plata. At the last council meeting, a proposal was made to change the town charter in a fundamental way, eliminating the role of the mayor as the president of the council and electing a president and vice president of the council from among the 4 councilmen. The town of La Plata has an attorney with expertise in governmental and municipal law, whose responsibility it is to advise the council regarding legal matters. The town attorney informed the council in as many ways as possible that the council's efforts to change the charter in the middle of their term was ill-advised. It would put the town at risk for litigation that most likely would not be decided in the town council's favor, and that opinion was based on previous litigation of similar midterm charter change attempts in other charter-governed communities. At the end of his comments, the council appeared to be prepared to move forward with their with the proposal to amend the town charter midterm. Since either you have very short memories or haven't paid attention to what's been happening at the county level of government over the last 4 years when elected officials did not follow legal advice, let me remind you. The majority of the county commissioners wanted to relieve the county administrator of his duties. Legal counsel present at the time of that discussion advised that this would be unwise and would put the county at risk for legal action. In spite of that legal advice, a vote was held. The commissioners in favor of relieving the county administrator of his duties prevailed. A lawsuit ensued, and the county spent approximately 1.5 million taxpayer dollars to find that the advice given by the attorney was correct. And then there was the matter of the elected county officials' desire to rezone a specific parcel of property. The county attorney advised that the rezoning constituted spot zoning and put the county at risk for litigation. Again, the majority of commissioners voted to change the zoning. Well, again, the county attorney was correct. Litigation followed. The zoning change was deemed spot zoning. Legal advice was again correct, and we don't know how much that litigation cost us. Now that I've refreshed your memories back to the last town council meeting, although I have yet to hear a good explanation for this amendment, a vote was held to direct the town manager and the town attorney to draft an amendment to the charter, eliminating the mayor as president of the council and adding that the president and vice president of the council would be elected from among the 4 councilmen. The motion passed. Well, as soon as the vote was completed, the mayor put you on notice that legal action would be pending soon. Gentlemen, in the words of the late, great Yankees catcher Yogi Berra, it's deja vu all over again. There is a legal low to no risk path to change the town charter. Use it, because to be quite frank, this proposal reads as a power grab by the council and a waste of taxpayer money for the litigation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Tanisha Woodland.
Hello, my name is Tanisha Woodland, and I am a resident of La Plata. So I want to talk about the left lane. Majority of La Plata is about 2 lanes wide. So state law is if there's someone behind you that wants to go faster than you and you're in the left, you move to the right so they can pass. That does not happen. And as a person who drives 301 and then 5 3 times a week and all the other weekends, it is getting ridiculous. So Plata is expanding. I'm very happy for that. But it becomes very frustrating when I know the law. And then sometimes I see a police officer and I'm like, oh, so are you going to pull this person over? And no, I don't know what needs to happen. Maybe the police officers need to be informed that this is the law. Pull people over and ask them, hey, or tell them, hey, you need to move over because there's a line of folks behind you. I've actually almost gotten a ticket for passing on the right because I could not go on the left because someone didn't want to move over. And what is now frustrating me is I've seen on the town Facebook, people are also complaining about this, but then you see comments of, oh, I'm going the speed limit. They can wait behind me. That's not the law. It doesn't matter if you're going the speed limit or not. Someone behind you wants to go faster. Just get over and out of the way of the passing lane, which is the left. So the idea that people are purposefully holding others back, and we see the increase of accidents in La Plata and Waldorf, it's going to get very bad because people are driving like they're crazy because they're just like, I want to be in the left. I want to go a little faster, and everyone's in the way. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Mike.
Good evening. My name is Mike Gann. I'm a resident of the town of La Plata, homeowner of 308 Alder Court. I come to you wearing several hats. I'm a La Plata homeowner, previous chair of the La Plata Planning Commission, current member of the La Plata Finance Committee. For the purposes of this meeting, business manager and board director of Port Tobacco Players, located at 508 Charles Street. They're a nonprofit live community theater. Upon review of this evening's agenda, the council will be presented with a letter of support for the Maryland State Highway Administration Maryland Route 6 Streetscape Improvement Project. So back in October, the council had a meeting. I believe the State Highway Association was here, and they made a statement that a representative from Port Tobacco Players was wildly enthusiastic about this project. Well, I was a representative. I had met with State Highway in this room as one of the local business people. And the first thing I noticed was we were going to lose parking. And I said, what if we what if we say no? And they said eminent domain. So they pretty much told me I didn't really have a say in the matter. So I said, well, then what will be done with the property that you take away? And they came up with a couple of options. And one of them was a plaza, Garden Lake Plaza. I said, that looks pretty good. That got translated to that I was wildly enthusiastic about the project. So I'm here to tell you, I am not wildly enthusiastic about the project. I would like to go on record as the representative of Port Tobacco Players that we are not in favor of this project, primarily because parking. Parking is already very, very limited for our customers, which can be as many as 300 at a time. And we'll be losing the precious few parking spots that we have. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you very much. Surrey. All right, and maybe I'm not reading. Did you sign in on any sheet? Oh, you signed on to speak. If you don't want to speak, that's all right. All right, Jamie.
Good evening. My name is Jamie Smith. I'm a town resident as well as the chief of the Volunteer Emergency EMS Association here in Charles County. I'm here with the assistant chief of the Plato Fire Department, Ryan Sukierski, as well as many dedicated fire volunteers. First, I want to make it clear that we support the efforts to improve our community, right? We support investments in our downtown, improvements to infrastructure, pedestrian safety, accessibility, and the long-term vitality of the town of Plata. However, we came here tonight because we believe a critical component of this project has not received the attention it deserves: public safety and emergency response. Over the past several months, the departments have repeatedly raised concerns regarding the impact on the proposed Route 6 streetscape project may have on fire apparatus access, ambulance operations, emergency vehicle maneuverability, and response times. These concerns are not theoretical. They're based on the daily operational realities of responding to emergencies throughout our community and transporting over 17,000 patients to our own ER here in La Plata. The agenda summary before you tonight discusses walkability, sustainability, economic development, ADA compliance, and stakeholder engagement. All of those are important goals, yet nowhere in the document is any meaningful discussion of how this project is going to affect our firefighters, EMTs, paramedics, and emergency responders who serve this community 24 hours a day. When a resident calls 911 for a house fire, a cardiac arrest, a vehicle accident, or any medical emergency, seconds matter. Every design decision that limits access, restricts maneuverability, or delays emergency vehicles has the potential to impact outcomes for those people. Our concern is not that the improvements are being made. Our concern is that those improvements move forward without adequately addressing emergency response operations. We're simply asking for what we believe is reasonable: that public safety be given a seat at the table and that emergency response considerations be fully evaluated before final support is provided for this project. We remain committed to working collaboratively with the town, SHA, elected officials, and all stakeholders to find solutions that improve our community while preserving the ability of emergency responders to do their jobs effectively. On behalf of the La Plata Volunteer Fire Department and the Charles County EMS Association, I respectfully ask that the council ensure these public safety concerns are fully considered before advancing support for this project. Thank you for your time, your service to the community, and the opportunity to speak this evening.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak that didn't sign up? All right. Well, thank you very much. Public engagement is always, always appreciated. All right. Next on our agenda is the Chesapeake Insurance Trust presentation.
Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm not used to speaking into these. My name is Jill Miller, and I'm with Chesapeake Employers Insurance Company. We're a workers' comp carrier, and I have some others with me as well that I'd like to introduce. First, we have Michael Maluli. He's also with Chesapeake Employers, and he is the safety consultant for workers' comp insurance for the town of La Plata. I know many of you know and work with him. Also with me tonight are Larry Sanders from Edward Sanders Insurance Agency. Along with Larry, we have his son, Michael Sanders, and his daughter, Sarah Payne. And we're all very excited to be here with you guys tonight. So in 2026, Chesapeake, we declared our largest policyholder dividend to date, and that's $60 million. So as a nonprofit carrier, one of the things we're most excited about is that when we do well, our policyholders do well. And those dollars go right back to our policyholders. And ultimately, they support the Maryland communities we all love and serve. So on behalf of all of us at Chesapeake and Edward Sanders Agency, I'm excited to personally present your organization with a dividend check in the amount of $110,518. So congratulations.
And I will gladly accept it.
Okay, sounds great. And then, yeah. Thank you so much.
Ready, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
Just a few more words.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So the dividend is for your outstanding safety performance during your 2024 policy term. And it's a reflection of the town of La Plata's commitment to safety and your efforts to prevent and effectively manage claims. And we hope to continue with that. You guys have done a great job, and we truly appreciate the partnership. So at $110,000, this is the largest check you've received to date. And over the past 8 years, you've received a total of just over $200,000. So let's keep that going. Finally, just thank you for choosing Chesapeake Employers. We truly value the trust you place in us, and we're honored to support the work you guys do every day. So once again, congratulations.
You will receive a dividend like that. It's the hard work that your manager, assistant manager, police chief, and others do to help control, monitor, and put in safety measures to reduce injured workers. Saves you time and employee downtime, but it also produces results like that. So they're the ones that help work with all the folks that get that for you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for always being interactive with our town. You've made it very easy to work with. So thank you for that. And thank you for the nice dividend check.
Oh, our pleasure. Congrats again.
Thank you. All right. Next on our agenda is a policy on requests for letters of support or recommendation. Mr. Stevens.
All right, good evening, Town Council. Chuck Stevens, your Town Manager. So tonight we have a policy position that we would like Town Council to take consideration on. As you're aware, just a few months ago, we had a number of requests come in for letters of support. And I know that it was a little bit frustrating for Council because there wasn't a lot of depth of information presented to you in advance of the meeting. And I said, yes, you're absolutely right. And we need to get some controls around that. So this is a reflection of that conversation that we had about maybe 4 to 6 weeks ago. So your background, the town periodically receives requests from nonprofits, community organizations, educational institutions, and partner agencies seeking a letter of support or a letter of recommendation from the town of La Plata, typically in connection with grant application, program initiatives, or regional coordination efforts. To date, the town has handled such requests on an ad hoc basis without formal written guidance governing submission requirements, review criteria, or the council's decision process. Staff has drafted a policy to establish a clear, consistent framework for receiving, reviewing, and acting upon these requests. The policy requires requesters to submit their request in writing to the town manager at least 4 weeks in advance, accompanied by a draft letter, project description, identification of the grant program, justification for town support, alignment with town priorities, and disclosure of any expected commitments from the town. Staff review evaluates alignment with adopted plans and policies, financial exposure, legal or operational implications, and consistency with town priorities. Requests that meet the threshold for council consideration are placed on a future agenda with a staff memorandum summarizing findings. The mayor would sign any approved letter. The policy also establishes that the town will not issue letters where a request creates unbudgeted obligations or conflicts with adopted plans and priorities. Fiscal impact. Adoption of this policy has no direct fiscal impact. The policy establishes an administrative process that is absorbed within existing staff capacity. The strategic plan alignment, as well as your sustainability and ADA considerations, are in your packet. Your recommendation this evening is to adopt Resolution 26-37, the Town of La Plata policy on requests for letters of support or recommendation, effective June 23rd, 2026, as presented. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. I'll open the floor to council. Council Goodman.
Really just a comment. I think it's a very well thought out policy. I like everything about it, and I look forward to voting on that later.
Thank you. Councilman McCormick.
Yeah, quick comment for you, Mr. Stevens, but thank you for the speed here again. I know we have a very real example that happened to us a couple months ago, and you taking that example and driving a left and right limit for a policy and taking it under your administration control. It's the right way to do it, in my opinion. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Sampson. Councilman Johnson.
Yeah, no, just one comment. Well, yes, a comment about, just making sure there's an ease of use for the people who want the letter to submit it to your office for review. So
Absolutely. If I can speak to that, if that's
Please.
okay, Madam Mayor. Yeah, we'll make this a web-based form. We had a similar form at the county I came from. I showed it to staff. It's still up and running. And so requesters will be able to go to the town website, click on a link that will take them to a web-based form that will automatically route to staff so that we'll get it. And it will require them to provide all of the information that I detailed in my staff report. So we'll get it in. We'll be able to prepare that staff report for you. You'll be able to get it in advance on a future agenda so that you'll know. And there's a little bit of vetting that staff will be able to do before something comes in front of you.
Wonderful. So I'm looking for a consensus to move this forward to legislation. Councilman Goodwin, Councilman McCormick,
Yes.
Councilman Sampson,
Yes.
Councilman Johnson.
yes.
And I am a yes as well. And that brings us to letter of support for the Maryland Department of Transportation State Highway Administration.
All right. And council, you already heard some public comment on this. So I will follow that now with your staff report. The Maryland State Highway Administration is leading a streetscape improvement project along Maryland Route 6 or Charles Street from US 301 to Willow Lane in the town of La Plata. The project is currently completing final design review and is advancing into the construction phase. The State Highway Administration conducted an extended design process that included direct coordination with local residents and businesses, and the final design reflects accommodations made in response to that stakeholder engagement. Project improvements include enhanced pedestrian crossing locations, a 10-foot shared use path connecting the downtown core to the Pine Grove community, ADA compliant sidewalks, updated corridor lighting, and critical infrastructure upgrades to culverts, drainage, and stormwater systems. The project corridor is the primary commercial and civic spine of La Plata, and the proposed improvements address longstanding infrastructure needs while enhancing public safety and pedestrian connectivity. As the project advances towards construction contracting, staff is recommending that the town council formally affirm its support for the project by authorizing the mayor to execute a letter of support. This action is consistent with the town's sustained commitment to the Maryland Route 6 corridor improvements and with the project's alignment with the town's adopted planning documents, specifically the comprehensive plan and the town's strategic plan. Separately, the town is coordinating with SHA to synchronize this project with the town's lead service line replacement project along the same corridor, an approach the town has termed the One Dig Initiative. Conducting both projects concurrently minimizes construction-related disruption to residents and businesses and avoids the cost and impact of disturbing newly improved roadway for subsequent utility work. The fiscal impact, the Maryland Route 6 Streetscape Improvement Project, is a state-funded SHA capital project. There is no direct capital expenditure by the town associated with the streetscape improvements themselves. The town's concurrent lead service line replacement work along the corridor is separately funded through town water utility capital resources and applicable federal funding programs and is proceeding under prior council authorization. Execution of a letter of support does not create a financial obligation for the town. In your packet, you can see the strategic plan alignment as well as the sustainability and ADA considerations. And your recommended action this evening is to adopt Resolution 26-39, authorizing the mayor to execute a letter of support for the Maryland State Highway Administration's Maryland Route 6 Streetscape Improvement Project in substantially the form attached, affirming the town's support for the project's advancement to construction. And I'm happy to answer any questions about the letter of support, because again, this is a state project. So if you want to get into details about the streetscape project itself, I'll do my best, but I can't speak on behalf of SHA.
Okay, and I'm going to start on this one, if you will indulge me. I'm on the website, and on June of 2026, which is this month, it says the project team continues to advance the design in coordination with local residents, business owners, EMS, and the town of La Plata. So can you expand upon that at all?
I know that SHA has held additional meetings since January through as recently as last week, and they've had specific outreach with various residents and business owners along Route 6, trying to tweak or make design accommodations for very specific requests, whether it's parking in front of a local pizza establishment or whatever the case may be. I also know that they have met with and have heard feedback directly from the La Plata Volunteer Fire Department as well as the EMS community. I did not, I know they had a meeting last week. I did not attend that one. The assistant town manager did sit in on that meeting, so I know that it occurred. All I will say, all that I'm comfortable saying is that I know that SHA continues to do outreach to those entities to try to make design accommodations based on their feedback.
Thank you. Councilman Gutenberg.
Yes. So this project, it is a safety project, and it really, I look to a lot of places to evaluate why this project is happening. It is not just to pretty up our Main Street, right? And I really want to talk about how it aligns to the Charles County Local Roadway Safety Plan, the LRSRP. What that plan notes is that 44% of all killed or seriously injured crashes in this county occur on just over 3% of the roadway that we have here. And that plan also identifies this exact stretch of road from 488 to 301, Maryland Route 6, that segment that we affectionately know as Charles Street here in La Plata, as one of the top 10 segments of road that are contributing to that serious or killed injury crash segment. And for that reason, the Charles County Local Roadway Safety Plan has specifically identified this as an area that they wanted state action on to address those kinds of statistics. Those kinds of statistics are the county's goal, and the state's goal is to reduce those roadway accidents in those categories. I took a look just using the data that's available by the Maryland State Police, which consolidates all police reports on crashes, and spent some time narrowing down just the segment of this project because it's a little narrower than what is in the county study. And between 2019 and this last month, what's in there is 139 crashes along that segment of road. And the county also has another statistic in there that was pretty impactful to me, that in countywide, of all the accidents that happen that are serious, 17% of them involve pedestrians, and in those cases, 100% of them involve serious injury. So that is a thing that really drives the way I look at this. And so what I believe the State Highway Administration is doing is they are engineering a road solution that takes into effect, and I've looked into this before with the SHA, taking into effect the mountable medians and the way the trucks have to navigate those roundabouts. These roundabouts they're not unique to La Plata. There are many examples across the state that I've looked at in person, driven by them regularly around the National Harbor area, in other counties where these same designs are used. They are built to support large vehicle traffic like that. Some counties have special plowing MOUs so that the county is making sure or the state highway, whoever's doing the plowing of those particular road features, make sure that those are noted for special clearing during snow events, so that emergency vehicles can still navigate those things. So I think that's an important thing, and I take into account as I look at this. I also want to emphasize another feature of that, the Charles County Local Roadway Safety Plan, because I do hear what our safety and emergency services folks are telling us here tonight, and I think what they're bringing is a really valid concern on response times. But when I look at that plan, what I hear tonight is and what I've seen is comment about how the response time are going to be affected through that area based on having to navigate roundabouts. But the county's plan actually has 4 different priorities for improving. It's special emphasis area 7 in that plan, and they lay out 4 different things that they want to do in order to increase response times. And I think, when I look at that plan, it's from 3 years ago, and they lay out who would be responsible for doing individual pieces of that plan and when. And some of those pieces say they would like to have had them done in 3 years, which means now. And I think probably a thing that we could do in another action on this council is potentially help by reiterating our support of those county priorities and helping the county commissioners not forget about those plans, because there are things like expanding use of traffic signal preemption for emergency vehicles. If the county and the state are designing those features in, that is a way that those signals can be used to reduce response times. That they had, I won't go into all of them, but they have several other features that they describe in there. And I think we should support our fire and EMS in helping the county be aware of and reminded of those priorities and our prioritization of wanting to help with that. The other piece that's important to me is our comprehensive plan. And so the town's comprehensive plan also supports this in the following way. When you look at our comprehensive plan for the one from 2020, this is a specific project that is by name asking for. And the importance of the comprehensive plan to us, I think, is that it is the premier planning document for the town, and it's built with great emphasis on building community support through committees, through engagement sessions, and the town goes to great expense over a 2-year period of engagement to get that. And so that is really a product that represents the best product we have of representing what the community wants, which is why we use it so much with our planning department and with the planning commission. And the things that we should be doing here is to focus us on that. So those things I think are really important, that it aligns with so many features within our comprehensive plan. And then the last thing I'll say is just you emphasized it as well. The value of this project with the one dig concept and having to replace over 4,400 feet of water main that's going to have to be done, and the value of being able to do that in conjunction with this project is a huge value as well. And so you have to kind of take all of that into consideration. But I think we can continue to support our fire and EMS teams and support this project. And I've also found individually that, you know, in just some conversations and interactions I've had with the engineers at the State Highway Administration, you know, my personal experience has been is that they've been open to discussions and feedback. And so I think it is, you know, from their perspective, I'm sure it is very difficult to work a project like this and make everybody happy. And but I think there is room for compromise. I know that just watching the project over the past few years, it has changed, and so I think there is evidence of modifications that have been made. And again, I think there's things that we can do to further support county plans in how we help our first responders continue to reduce response times, as well as allow this street design that's going to, I think, objectively help the crash and injury risks that we do have on this piece of road. That's all. Thank you.
Do you have any comments? Councilman.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Stevens, do you mind just going to page 1? It should be the last 2 paragraphs. It starts with as the project advances toward, and it ends with subsequent utility work. And I'm going to stay with the nature of the letter here for these questions, if that's okay.
And are you talking about the letter of support itself?
Correct,
Letter?
yes.
Okay, so tell me again where we're
Yep,
looking.
so it's going to start with as the project advances toward, and it ends with for subsequent utility work. It's the last 2 paragraphs on page 1 of 3.
On your background. It is your
Oh,
staff
it's in the
report.
staff report.
Sorry, yeah, it's in your staff report. I apologize.
Oh.
It's under background. Thank you, Madam
Okay,
Mayor.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Right before fiscal impact.
Okay. Gotcha. I
Okay.
track it.
So those last 2 paragraphs, this is where, again, I want to stick to the nature of the letter. I think this council, in my personal opinions, talked about the project. We've solicited feedback. I'm really glad that the EMS team and fire department came here today and gave their verbal comments. I'm really glad the business community came and gave verbal comments. I know you personally walked with them, so I just want to stick to this letter here. If we were to go ahead and move this forward, and I don't know what the vote will be, but let's say it's 5-0, everybody's in favor of this letter. Are we committing to a specific concept today? Like a specific design?
No, you're,
Okay.
you're,
And that's how I read this. So again, there's no specific design that the council is committing to through this letter, right? Which I think is important to note.
Correct.
And that opens up the door again. And I understand there's frustration on the EMS fire department side, and that cannot be flippantly waved off, in my opinion, right? That has to be addressed, in my opinion. I think there needs to be just personally better outreach there. But this letter, I think, opens us up to allowing that still continue while we support the One Dig initiative, get, in my opinion, right, and just my opinion, I understand there's no fiscal impact in this letter, but I think there certainly is an underlying fiscal impact if this council were to say no to this letter of support. That really puts us out to dry and to hang, and we're going to be on the hook for the entirety of the project. I know several council members, myself included, have said this numerous times. No matter what happens, if SHA comes in and invests or not, we still have to dig up that road and get after that pipe. And the question here is, do we want to offset some of those costs with the SHA and what they're willing to invest from the state? Or do we, as frankly we have done a lot in the past, take on that burden by ourselves? And I guarantee you, while today we're going to sit here and high five each other and go, this is great. You know, we listened to the feedback and we told the SHA that, you know, they're not doing a great job of communicating our opinion, whatever it ends up being, that we potentially lose that relationship and we're on the hook. And when we sit here in, you know, March, St. Patrick's Day again next year, and you're going through the briefing and there's a potential tax increase because we still have to fund this and the SHA has backed off its investment because we decided we were going to take this stand, I think it puts us in a really peculiar spot. So again, I want to be very clear. I hear the fire department, I hear EMS. I think this letter still allows for that relationship to occur. We have not committed to a design with this letter. This is us just simply saying, just reading those last 2 paragraphs, we want SHA to continue to invest and move forward with this project. And if that's what the left and right intent of this is, I think personally it's a no-brainer.
thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Sampson?
Yes, I just had a few questions just to get clarity on this. So the first question is, what is driving the letter of support? In other words, who's asking for it?
No one in particular is asking for it. Since January to now, there's been a number of meetings. There's been a lot of engagement with SHA and various residents, businesses, the EMS and the fire department. Town staff has tried to attend all of those. I believe that somebody from the town has attended all of those meetings, to my knowledge. We may have missed one, but I believe we've attended all of them. Without exception, every time I go to a meeting, a question is asked of me, well, what is the town's position on this project? Does the town support this project? The council has informally communicated to me that, yes, the town is absolutely in support of this project for all the reasons that we've talked about tonight. But as the design phase nears its conclusion and as construction phase is starting to start its first, funding phase, I thought it was really important that we memorialize the town's position, because I go to these meetings and I say, yes, the town supports it. That doesn't carry the weight of a letter of support from this town to the state saying, yes, we support your project. So nobody is asking for it per se. I thought that it would be prudent at this juncture, given all of the communications that we're seeing and the Facebook, that council take a formal position on this topic.
Okay, and so I'm gonna ask I guess would be the obverse question of what Councilman McCormick asked. If we didn't support the letter, then what happens?
Nothing. I don't send a letter to the state. The state still continues with their project. They would probably call me and say, hey, we heard there was a letter of support and you guys didn't support it. Is the town still in? I think it would probably spark a conversation, but this is a state project. As far as I know, the state has funding and the state is desirous of continuing this project. I don't know that anything that happens here tonight with regard to this letter of support is going to change that position.
Okay, and then I know from reading the packet and from what I've heard that the state has reached out to the public safety community in La Plata. And I didn't see it, and I may have overlooked it or just may have forgotten. Is there a risk analysis that includes their concerns as part of the project? In other words, that addresses all these issues with transit times, traffic peaks, response times, that type of thing? Is there an actual risk analysis that we can look at?
I can't answer that. I know that a traffic impact analysis for the project was done probably 2 years or more ago. But to the specifics that you're asking me, I don't have that knowledge. I can't answer that.
Okay. From what I heard from the public safety community and the business community tonight, and I may have misinterpreted what they said, but my understanding is what they are asking for tonight is a delay in the letter of support. I didn't hear them say no letter of support, just a delay so that their concerns could be included. What a delay so we can do the risk analysis. I'm not talking about, something that's going to take 5 or 6 months, but I'm thinking like maybe 30 days or something like that. Would that have a negative impact on anything?
Well, we don't have any control over that. So similar to what Mr. Dooley said when we were talking about the APFO, we can control what we can control. So this council has the discretion as to whether or not it wants to support this project. As Councilor McCormick stated, we're not getting into specifics of design. You can control whether or not you vote in support of a letter of support. We don't control whether or not the state has already conducted the analysis that you're asking for, or if the state will conduct that. We don't control that. So we can certainly ask that question. I can follow up this week and ask the state project manager if those kinds of analysis have been done. I can feed that back to you, but it doesn't have any bearing on whether or not this council can vote on this letter of support this evening.
Okay, let me rephrase. If we just followed up with the state to see if they've done it before we voted, would that have any negative impact on anything?
I don't think there would be any impact. I think it would be neutral.
Okay. Did the state or the county or us do a fiscal analysis to the impact of businesses? In other words, one of the things that I heard one of the business owners say is that it will cut down on their parking, and that's specifically during the construction phase. So I think it's like Councilmember McCormick said, I think the overall intent of the project is, a no-brainer. I think that, but what I'm concerned about is during that time period, businesses being hurt during that time period. And I know that's separate from the letter of support, but I'm just wondering, just from my own awareness, are you aware of the state or anybody else looking at anything like that?
No, I'm not aware. And in any of the meetings that I've attended over the last year, I have not heard of any kind of fiscal impact analysis that has been done.
Okay. And then it is unclear to me, and it's probably just me overlooking it. When we say the state has reached out to the safety community, public safety community, what does that actually mean? I'm not clear. Does that mean did they sit down with them individually as a group and say, okay, let's have the county police, La Plata police, the volunteer fire department, just them, and say, what are your concerns? Is those the meetings you're talking about they're having, or are they just a part of a bigger meeting?
No, it's the former. So, for instance, with the meeting last week, it was specifically with EMS and fire department.
Just the fire department?
Just the fire department.
Just the fire. Okay. And just to restate, the state has had public meetings on this how many times now? Do you recall? I can't remember.
I don't know the number of public meetings that the state's held on this. I know the project started a number of years ago.
If I could, I mean, you can go to the project website. They have an extensive list of all the public meetings that they've had. Yeah, you can go back into years.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So just to recap what I'm hearing and what I'm saying. So what I'm hearing is, I think I speak for myself that we all like the idea of a letter of support. The question is, should the letter of support be delayed to address or hear any more concerns of the public safety community? I hear the public safety community saying they actually support the letter of support. They just want their concerns heard and some kind of analysis done. At this point, we don't know if the state has done any analysis, and I know that's a whole separate issue. And no delay has any impact. This is just us out of good faith providing a letter of support to take a formal position to say that we support it. I think it's clear, and I applaud you because I think you've been communicating effectively to the state. I think we all support it. So the question then is this the right thing to do at this time? And you may or may not be able to give an answer to this last question, but if the council was to vote no, I guess my question is, how would the state receive it, and how would that be communicated to the state? In other words, I don't suspect they're sitting around watching this tonight and everything. So the question would be, how is it communicating, and how do you, just from your conversations, perceive they would perceive that?
Right. So if council supports the letter, it'll get signed, and then I'll send that directly to the director of SHA. That's who it's addressed to. If the council does not take action to support the letter of support this evening, I won't communicate that proactively to the state, but at the next meeting that we're in, the question will be asked, because it's been consistently asked in every meeting that I've attended since January. Does the town support this project? And so at that time, I'm going to be in a challenging situation, because this council has expressed support for the project, yet won't take a formal action to demonstrate that support. So that'll be an interesting conversation to have, for sure.
Okay, so you're saying that your impression is that they want something in writing from us, and your impression is that when we say we support the project, and this is kind of going back to Councilman McCormick's position, and I know this is just in your impression, does that mean they would they, based on your interaction, receive that as we are supporting it as is, or just in general with some modifications?
To answer your last question first, no, it's a letter of support for the project. There's absolutely no design considerations being discussed here this evening. The reality is that the state is nearing the end of design and they're going to move into construction funding. And so this project is competing for funding across the state in a state budget that is very constrained. And so I think that there is risk that if this town doesn't memorialize and codify a position that the state can look to when they're making decisions about funding, I think that would put this project at risk. That's something that council should consider.
Okay, all right, that's all I have.
Councilman John.
Yeah, thank you. So most importantly, to the residents that came out tonight and the business owners and the community stakeholders, it's always great to have a full chambers compared to what we normally see. So thank you for the feedback. I know, secondly, I've fielded calls and conversation and emails since I think the beginning of the year, February timeframe. So I appreciate that outreach. And I know the state, Sean Boyle particularly have had meetings and conversations and made adjustments based on individual needs, which is great. I think what's really important is doing the right thing, right? So in 2020, this is part of the comprehensive plan. In 2018, the engagement with the community was had about the comprehensive plan in general, how we grow our community, what we want to see in our community, and what that's going to look like in the next 10 years. And we're going to have a shot at that again in the coming years about what the next 10 years look like. So that's critically important. So if you weren't engaged in 2018, I encourage you to get engaged in 2 years when we start the planning process again, because that's the way you can have your voice heard and what we want our community to look like. Secondly, I think, when you think about the priority funding area and the state investing in our community, it's critical that with the budget strengths that's going to about to happen in the state of Maryland here pretty soon, that if we can get any state funding that don't come out of the town funding, we take it. The project as a whole is a good project when you look at what the process and the outcome is to be. The collisions, fortunately for us in the last 7 years, the town has only had 7 total fatalities, one too many, compared to countywide. But we do see a lot of collisions on Route 6 and that corridor specifically, whether it's personal injuries or property damage only, they're there. The state launched their first meeting in May of 2023. I'm not going to speak to the outreach or how it occurred, but they had the first session in May of 2023, and then again in June of 2024. The unfortunate moment is that we're here today when design is nearing completion. I encourage you all, any stakeholders who have feedback, to continue to engage with State Highway on the design component. I know personally of at least 2 to 3 meetings that they have had with the stakeholders along the corridor. I know of maybe 2 adjustments, which the adjustments may not be to what the outcome the stakeholder wanted, but I do believe the state has an open ear, and Chuck, I would ask as you continue to engage with the state and staff engage in the state with the meetings, that we still encourage the community outreach and listening or taking the feedback and finding a way to, I'm not going to say meet in the middle because I'm not an engineer, but finding a way to accommodate the needs of everyone affected. This project has been in the works for arguably at least the last 6 years from the comprehensive plan, but I would imagine longer based on conversations I had. But most importantly for all of us to have any stakeholders provide feedback to the council specifically is good to hear. I can't speak. I wasn't here before, but if the comments were made before, but we definitely heard you tonight. And to Mr. Stevens' point, this is supporting the project in whole, not supporting a particular design, which I think is important to note. But like I said, I encourage everyone to continue to send their information to Sean. There's a public dashboard out there. I've been fielding emails and calls for the last few months, and I'll gladly still take them. And I'll continue to advocate for you all to have some type of dialogue with the state, whether in this chambers or via phone or email. So thank you.
Thank you. And one last comment that I will make. I know that SHA has really started listening even harder, and they have reached out to the, I know the fire department, and I don't know why EMS has not spoken with them, if that's what you're saying, Ms. Smith, but that's a conversation that needs to be had, because and that is maybe a connection that you can receive for Sean Boyle is the person up there, but they have been very thoughtful in listening to people that have spoken up. And again, this has been going on since 2023, and sometimes we don't know until it's the last minute. I understand that. One misnomer that I do want to clear up is I have heard several people say that there was going to be medians in the on Charles Street, and that was going to slow down response time, slow down. That they're not medians, they're not concrete medians, they're mountable medians in two places. It will be the dog bone in front of the liquor store, and then there will be a roundabout. So those are some of the things that were in there from the original one have been removed. So that is a good thing. But I encourage everyone to look at their updates on the Maryland.gov page, that they are tracking what's going on for that. But I appreciate the constant communication with state. It is nice that they are paying attention to the county seat. And we don't usually get much in the ways of major projects. So this is a big one. So council, it is at this time that I'm asking for a consensus to move this forward to legislation. Councilman Gutenberg,
Yes.
Councilman McCormick.
Yes.
Councilman Sampson,
No.
Councilman Johnson.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. All right, we'll see that in just a little bit. Thank you. Next on our agenda is legislation, ordinance 26-14, revision of the employee handbook.
All right, council, ordinance 26-14, revision of the employee handbook. This is your second reading for consideration of adoption. This is an ordinance concerning the revision of the employee handbook for the purpose of amending certain personnel rules and regulations regarding policies on civility in the workplace, gift acceptance, workplace communication, vacation accrual, sale of leave, and heat-related illness prevention and management in the town's employee handbook and all matters generally relating thereto.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 26-14 as presented?
So moved.
Thank you very much. Councilman Gutenberg, do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Sampson, thank you very much. All in favor, any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is ordinance 26-03, resigned to run.
Okay, this is ordinance 26-03, resigned to run. This is your second reading for consideration of adoption. Resigned to run for the purpose of amending Chapter 17, elections, requiring incumbent elected officials of the town of La Plata seeking candidacy through any board of elections for a position other than re-election to the council of the town of La Plata to resign from their current position with the town and all matters generally relating thereto.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 26-03 as presented?
So moved.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
Second.
Go
All
ahead.
right.
Sorry.
Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Nay. Motion carries. Brings us to,
Madam Mayor, pardon the interruption. Can you please clarify the vote?
it was, would you like to take a roll call on that? Would that be easier?
Specifically looking for the second.
The second was Councilman McCormick.
Very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is ordinance 26-15, chapter 191.
Okay, this is ordinance 26-15, chapter 191, zoning ordinance for the town of La Plata, Maryland, roads. This is the first reading for introduction. This is an ordinance concerning chapter 191, zoning ordinance for the town of La Plata, Maryland, roads, for the purpose of amending Article 10 of the zoning ordinance of the town of La Plata to include processes for creating, managing, and maintaining adequate public road facilities in the town of La Plata and all matters generally relating thereto.
Thank you very much. Do I have, oh, next is Resolution 26-37 for the Town of La Plata Policy on Letters of Support or Recommendations.
Okay. This is Resolution 26-37, Town of La Plata Policy on Letters of Support or Recommendation. This is for introduction and consideration of adoption. This is a resolution concerning the Town of La Plata Policy on request for letters of support or recommendation for the purpose of defining an administrative framework for processing requests for letters of support or letters of recommendation from the Town of La Plata and all matters generally relating thereto.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to adopt Resolution 26-37 as presented?
So moved.
All right. Councilman McCormick, thank you very much. And do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Johnson, any comments, any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to Resolution 26-38.
All right, and council, before I read this one, I'm gonna ask you to recall that we just passed something called a Scrivener's error resolution that you took, or actually it was an ordinance, is that right? At your last meeting. So there is a mistake in the agenda packet here tonight. So this is actually Resolution 26-39. It's printed as 38 in the agenda. But just to be clear, we are talking about Resolution 26-39. This is the Maryland State Highway Administration Letter of Support for Introduction and Consideration of Adoption. This is a resolution concerning a Maryland State Highway Administration Letter of Support for the purpose of authorizing the mayor to execute a letter of support to the Maryland State Highway Administration relating to the Maryland State Highway Administration Maryland Route 6 Streetscape Improvement Project and all matters generally relating thereto.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to adopt Resolution 26-39 as presented?
So moved.
Thank you very much, Councilman McCormick. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much, Councilman Gutenberg. Any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I know we just talked about this. I want to make sure I had the opportunity to address a couple of things that I think Councilman Sampson brought up that are legitimate concerns. And I want to address the folks that are still here that made public comments regarding the EMS input or lack of input. This letter does not stop EMS from seeking or facilitating input from them over to the SHA project manager and that team. And again, I think Councilman Johnson did a good job of highlighting the historical context between how this conversation has come about, what was happening for the last 6 years to get this in front of us today. And I just want to be very clear that the concerns brought up by the fire department EMS supporting this letter, in my opinion, does not negate those concerns. I think they can still be addressed. The last two paragraphs that I talked about on page 1 of the background clearly highlights that. And again, Mr. Stevens, I want to say thank you for presenting this letter in the way that you did.
Any other comments?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, again, seriously, thank you to the residents and stakeholders that provided comment. But to really reiterate, so that way when we leave this room, it's not misspoken of what council supported. We are supporting the project. And it's critical that those who continue to have concerns about whatever the design may be or whatever the timeline may be of the project, that you engage your council members to take the feedback and possibly follow it through staff. But most importantly, Sean Boyle, who has been religious in responding to concerns of the community, is super critical that you continue to engage the state on this project. So don't stop advocating for what you believe you need, but in a holistic view, it is prudent for this council, or at least for me, to vote yes, and the responsibility of adhering to our comp plan and a financial standpoint of, $4 million for one dig, or we pay, I'm estimated, I don't know, 11 million to do the project ourselves. So super critical that the context of this approving this letter of support is not taken out of context tonight.
All right, any further
Yes,
discussion?
yes, please.
Okay.
Mr. Stevens, if I could ask, one of the things I commented about with the local roadway safety plan is the emphasis area 7, which in the county plan is a specific set of 4 items that they want to use, or that the plan articulates as improvements to emergency response times. What's the appropriate way for us, either as a body or town staff, to interact with the county to find out where they are in execution of any of that plan?
Yeah, I took a note when you brought that up earlier,
Okay.
Counselor. I think the first step is for me just to reach out to the county administrator and ask that question directly. And then we'll take it from there. We'll see where they are. And then I don't know if the town council has ever had occasion to meet with the Board of County Commissioners. I know that's a common practice in other jurisdictions. This would be a great topic for such a meeting if they exist or can exist in the future. I don't know. But I think the first step is just for me to reach out to Deb Hall and ask her the question.
Okay, yeah, and I would certainly be in support of us taking further action to, articulate priorities and to help elevate what we heard here tonight from our first responder community in order to help those, kind of plans get traction into being done. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, a motion has been made and properly seconded. All in favor of adopting resolution 26-39 as presented, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. All right, that brings us to our reports. Councilman Gutenberg.
Yes, so it was a busy week, a couple of weeks. So the MML summer conference was really a big focus last week. Really had a lot of really good engagement there. Continue to just the experience that I get there and the interactions there. I'm continuing to work on the credentials for the fellowship for the Center of Excellence in Local Government, taking classes there. I'm looking like I'm on track to finish that by the end of this year, so I'm excited about that. But really, I'm more excited about the conversations I was able to have there with other town managers, with our town manager, being able to have some kind of individual conversations. Out on the floor, there's folks that are solving municipal problems, and it's just interesting being able to talk and engage with them quite a bit. So it's really just a lot of activity. And then it's sort of the end of it, though, the highlight that kind of ties together for me was the Banner City designation that La Plata got. And I'll just speak real quickly on why that's an interesting thing or a good thing, I think, for us as a municipality, because the Maryland Municipal League, when they give those banners out, the significance of it is there's like 157 municipal governments there, and I don't know, I didn't really do the math on it, but maybe a third of them get a Banner City Award. And really what that means is that as a group, the town staff has committed to meeting 5 core criteria. And it really has to do with, having people attending both of the main conferences, participating in chapter meetings with other sub elements that happen throughout the year. We're in the Southern Maryland chapter here. The Municipal Government Works month, promoting that and talking about that. School youth outreach, which Madam Mayor does so well. And we had an example of that here, was 2 meetings ago, I think. And then the statewide league engagement, where we have folks either from staff or from council that are engaging with folks in Annapolis. And I think that really tells a good story of, and we've done this for years now too. This isn't the first year we've gotten that designation, and I'm kind of proud that we've done that, and it shows a commitment that we've made to good governance, I think, is really what that represents to me. So, yeah.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Councilman McCormick.
Yes, thank you. Thank you to everybody that came today and gave a comment. I love seeing the chamber filled. It is great to get community feedback live in real time. Written comments obviously hold the same weight. There's no comment that we prefer or I prefer more than the other. But again, seeing residents come out here and talk about traffic issues, especially coming from Steeplechase, thank you for doing that. To have our EMS team explain that maybe some of the information that at least I had been provided may not be entirely accurate. And while I supported this letter, I still firmly agree and believe that the EMS team, the fire department, our police department, if they so choose, still continue to give that feedback to Mr. Stevens, to Mr. Boyle, so that this project truly reflects the needs of our safety and also our community as well. So I don't think supporting this letter does anything to drive a wedge in that relationship, and I just want to be clear on that. Father's Day, happy Father's Day to everybody out there who celebrates, and thank you for doing all that you do for your families. Election day is today. You got 33 more minutes according to the clock back there. So if you haven't voted yet, please do so. The Sacred Heart Museum opened since our last meeting, so I had the opportunity to attend Mass. I'm a parishioner of that. And giving our proclamation to Bill and his staff, they were incredibly grateful. It went right into their museum, which is great. So it's next to the state's and the county's proclamation as well. So again, there's 125 years worth of history, parishioners that have been a part of Sacred Heart, and it's really cool to see a lot of their objects in that museum. So feel free to check that out. And then finally, I want to highlight a success story. So, Kings Grant has been really proactive in sending issues, if you would, with, sidewalks, streetways, and utilizing that citizen request tracker. So I was able to talk to their beautification commission through email earlier this week and walk them through the process on how to do that and actually put in a request for them. So you'll probably see that coming through at some point in the next 24 hours, Mr. Stevens. I'm assuming it'll get assigned to the right partner and program there. But I urge other HOAs, residents, if you see something, say something. That citizen request tracker does work. I can tell you firsthand, Mr. Stevens has reached out with folks in their request and giving project status updates there. So if you really want to get something addressed, please utilize the platforms that we have. And again, I just want to highlight that success story for everybody. With that, no further comments.
Thank you.
Nothing.
Councilman Johnson.
Yes, thanks. I too also attended the Maryland Municipal League, or MML, summer conference, and I think it's 3 or 4 days long. Started Sunday evening, and I participated in a few courses for the Academy of Excellence, which is a program for municipal leaders and county leaders in partnership with the University of Maryland School of Public Policy. So officially, I'm proud to say I am a graduate of the program, as I found out, because I completed all my courses and I graduate in September, or I get my certificate in September. So, but the last few classes that I attended were from empathy to action, boosting civic engagement, playgrounds for all, talk about inclusiveness and how communities engage their playground. Quick fact, the Maryland Playgrounds for All have no inclusive playgrounds recorded here in Charles County. So I'm excited as we continue our capital conversation around recommendations for playgrounds that we can be the first model for Charles County to get inclusive playgrounds. And I also attended Avoiding Legal Pitfalls in Public Purchasing and prior conferences, budgeting, risk management, charter checkup, county and municipal relationships. So it's a really, really good network of people, because the town of La Plata aren't dealing with these issues alone. And I don't think we're the first to deal with the issues, but we may be the first to solve some of them, which is promising. But the amount of institutional knowledge that you gain and professional development you gain through the partnership is really critical as you sit up here and make decisions for the best interest of the town. So.
Thank you very much. And I too attended the Maryland Municipal League Summer Conference. This is my 9th year, and every year I come back energized and more informed than I went there. And it's amazing at the classes that they offer. I was elected to the board of directors and also to the executive board of directors of the Maryland Municipal League, which means that La Plata will continue to have a strong direct voice in a statewide municipal advocacy and policy making. So that is where the sausage is made, is up there. And as both my colleagues said, a great opportunity for networking. And as a graduate of the Academic for Excellence in Local Government, I also take graduate courses on there, and we took a really, really good one. So I have qualified for the 3rd year now to be a torchbearer. That's the next one that you all will be going for. So that's just meaning more education and always learning on how to be stronger as a leader and how to bring it back to our municipalities. While we were there, I did receive a governor's citation for my service as president of the Maryland Mayors Association. So the lieutenant governor presented it, and later on that afternoon at a reception, the governor thanked me personally, and he follows La Plata. So that is pretty neat, good, bad, or ugly, but he knows what's going on in his municipalities, and that is really someone that engages. And I tell you, he cannot sing our praises enough for Magnolia Gardens and having affordable or workforce housing in Charles County. The Tri-County Council presented us with a very nice plaque for our participation in Bike to Work Day. And although it was just a little trickle, it was starting off here. We will get stronger as it goes on, and we'll get the word out. But thank you to Miss Minor for being there, and Chief Norris and Major Payne. And it was neat to see how at least they're promoting this initiative. So it will be again next year. It happens nationwide on that day. All right, if you weren't there on Friday to see the Quiet Fire on our stage, you missed one heck of a performance. They were really good band. This Friday, we will have the 257th Army Band. Crossing our fingers that weather will move out because they're really an enjoyable band. Please note that there will be no concert on July 3rd because we want everyone to save all their energy and excitement and join us on July 4th, where we will have our celebration here at Town Hall. And we look forward to celebrating together. And then our next scheduled meeting is not until July 28th. So hopefully you all, if you need us, you know where to reach us, but we're going to give staff just a wee bit of a break as well as us. So enjoy your summer. I hope to see you out at the events. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.